Evening everybody, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Tonight I'm going to be reacting to Star Wars vs Warhammer 40K, Episode 33, The Jaws of Fate, Season 3, Lords of the End, made on the YouTube channel AFanWithTooMuchTime. If you guys want to check out my previous reactions to the other episodes, remember the playlist card is going to be at the top here. Just click on it and be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as AFanWithTooMuchTime's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Yes, episode 32, Shifting Sands. Padme Amidala and her children are alive, thanks to Dr. Sheena and Master Yoda. If it wasn't for Dr. Sheena not giving up on her and trying to find a solution to this problem, you know, in terms of Padme losing the will to live, then we would have had a different ending to that storyline where Padme would be dead and the children would be alive. But thanks to Dr. Sheena and Master Yoda, that ending did not come to pass. What else happened? Tatooine. Yes, Tatooine, Boba Fett, and the swift claws of the Space Wolves, well, in particular Yannick of the Space Wolves, have been investigating the spice trains that are transporting spice across Tatooine, and the Tusken Raiders are involved in some sort of like hijacking of these trains, and Boba Fett and the Space Wolves have been investigating on this matter. They have come aboard one of the trains that are being hijacked by the Tusken Raiders, led by a Jedi, a Tusken Jedi named Ashard. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly there. I've been told in the comment sections that this Tusken Jedi is a human being. In fact, he's not, you know, a Tusken, if I can say that. I don't know if being a Tusken is a cultural thing or is it a biological species thing. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure whether it's a culture. You know, like the Mandalorians, they're a culture. It's not necessarily a species of Mandalorian, or maybe they were before. I'm not entirely sure about that part. But yeah, essentially a human Tusken Jedi is the leader of this hijacking of the spice trains, and yeah, he is fighting against Yannick, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think they're fighting against Yannick right now. This Tusken Raider Jedi, he's fighting against Yannick and Boba Fett, and yeah, we're gonna see probably what's gonna happen in that battle in this episode 33. What else happened? Oh yes, Utapau. The Crimson Razors are having their Xeno burgers, if I can say that. Yeah, I've been told in the comment sections that, you know, it's a joke that goes around with the Space Marines. You know, when they start eating other sentient life, they call them Xeno burgers. So yeah, they're having the Xeno burgers and devouring the people of Utapau, trying to gain the knowledge from their brain matter, if I can say that. And yeah, I think that's about it with episode 32, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to highlight. But yeah, let us continue now with episode 33, The Jaws of Fate. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Damn it, be careful, whelp! Yannick bellowed through a sandy, sore throat. The hot green blade of the Tusken Jedi's lightsaber was mere inches from his face, held back by the glowing adamantium knife that the Marine held, smoking in his rapidly heating grip. The Jedi was strong, stronger than he had any right to be, and Yannick rightly ascribed it to his martial warpcraft. Nose flaring in rage at the indignity of even being stalled by something as pathetic as a heretical psyker who was well within his reach, Yannick pushed, muscles bunching and contained within his armor, the armor flexing along with him. Opposite the Space Wolf, Boba Fett stood, taking shelter behind a few metal crates, dodging and evading his own shots. He tried to fire on the Jedi while he was locked in combat with Yannick, trusting that Yannick's armor would make up for any misses, and it did. But rare was the blast he issued out that the Jedi Knight did not return with a swipe of his offhand saber. With Yannick pushing, it seemed the tide would shift, but the Jedi suddenly released his rigid stance, and Yannick, pressing down with most of his considerable strength, pushed past, stumbling by as the saber he struggled against suddenly lost its resistance, the Jedi sidestepping him and allowing the Marine to fall past. Yannick managed to keep his feet under him, jerking his body away to the right, his face barely avoiding the emerald blade of the passing Jedi, and the bright red blaster bolt which seared into his armored collar, a shot issued by an unwary Fett. The Space Marine turned, bringing his combat knife up defensively, his blade glowing nearly as brightly as the ones wielded by his foe. A molten slash dripped ceramite and sparked menacingly from across his chest, his keen senses telling him he had been bitten by the heretical blade, but not too deeply.
I don't know how strong this Tusken Raider Jedi is, Ashard. I don't know how strong he is, but I think Yannick is going to need backup here. Boba Fett, I mean, you're good, but I think this is out of your league here. You know, you're not really going to contribute enough into this fight. I think Yannick needs backup from his brothers. Yeah, I don't think he can defeat this guy alone. But hey, he could surprise us here. Yannick, he could surprise us and defeat the Tusken Raider Jedi, but we'll just have to wait and see.
It still hurt like a horrendous, fiery branding, and in response to the scorching touch, Yannick began to instinctively sweat, though from where Boba Fett was standing, the formidable Imperial warrior seemed nervous, even as he grinned fiercely. And the Mandalorian clone was correct, the Space Wolf was nervous. Yannick was a child in terms of a Space Marine, in spite of his relative accolades. This Jedi was older, had been fighting for longer, and had the power of the warp at his disposal to help even the odds. Perhaps. Had he a power axe, or were he permitted to use his bolter against him directly, the battle would sway. But as things were, Yannick was keenly aware of the fact that he and Fett were running out of options. But failure was never one of those options. Go! Yannick growled to the bounty hunter. What? Fett snapped in reply. Go shut down the train, whelp! The mission must be completed. Get this thing to slow down and cease movement. Yannick snapped right back. The Jedi began to step forward again, evidently not a fan of what he was overhearing. Fett looked at him, and then at the Space Marine before nodding and turning around. Before he left, however, he said, "He's going to kill you if you fight him alone." Yannick's sharp-toothed smile grew wider in direct response, his eyes never leaving the encroaching Jedi. I might. Now get ye to your task, or I'll not be the only one dying, he said, seeming to bristle in anticipation. Fett took off, and the Jedi paused, just outside of striking range. I salute your dedication, but even if he stops the train, it will mean nothing, and you will still die, he said through his alien mask.
What do you mean if they stop the train it will mean nothing? I mean, there's already Astartes outside, chasing after the train. and you're alone here. You don't have any backup from anyone. So, what do you mean? Okay.
Oh, lad, you no idea what you're gabbing about. You may send me to the Emperor, but he did not send me alone to begin with. And there are toothier things to take care of you once this train stops than little old me. All I have got to do is keep you still long enough. The Space Wolf sat back, legs spread in a wide, crouching stance. The Marine unable to edge to the left or right due to the narrowness of the crate-packed train car. The Jedi shook his head. Fool, he said, before snapping forward like a serpent, his twin green fangs descending like Nurgle's teeth. Yannick answered by grabbing one of the metal crates which were stacked high to either side, using his considerable strength to rip the thing out, along with several of the other containers which sat atop it in one smooth movement. The sabers penetrated the metal and spice within without difficulty, but came up short of their target. The Jedi's hilts clashing against the containers just as the glowing ends of the sabers penetrated an inch past the opposite side.
This spice, is it flammable? Is it toxic? Is it radioactive? Is it, like, will it become a problem for anyone who inhales the spice? Or I'm thinking about Dune here, guys. I'm thinking that maybe if someone inhales this spice, they will have some sort of, trance where they're able to see the past, the present, the future, and all other possible futures and dimensions. Like, what can this spice do to you? Or is it just a herbal product, that people use for medical reasons? Yeah.
Yannick reared and kicked the crate in the place right between the two saber points, acting before the Tusken could withdraw them, throwing the heretic down the hallway nearly to the entrance into the next train car. The Jedi recovered with a pulse of power, slicing one blade up and the other down in the same moment, shredding and bursting the crate apart and scattering the spice everywhere in a cloud. One Yannick charged through a literal second later, massive and looming, tackling the Jedi in the chest with his huge shoulder plate. The blow was one of organ pulverizing power, but its lethality was subdued by the potent force barrier the Jedi had erected around himself just before the charge connected. His back hit and then broke the door into the train car behind them, the Space Marine charging like an enraged Reek, knocking all the air out of him, which would have left him helpless, but the Jedi had techniques for fighting without any breath at all.
I'm not sure who to support here. I mean, yeah, I like the Space Wolves from episode 32. Yes, I did like them. I did like Yannick and Boba Fett. Though I don't really support Boba Fett or the Space Wolves or the Imperium of Man, invading Tatooine. I don't really support that. And also, I don't really support the Tusken Raiders or this Tusken Jedi in particular. I'm on the fence. I don't really know who to support here. Whoever wins, wins. And I will congratulate you. Whoever loses, I will also, pray for you wherever you go, either to the warp or to the Emperor's side. Yeah.
Curved his blades in, sinking them into Yannick's shoulder, drawing a pained cry from the Marine, who staggered and thrashed, throwing the Jedi off, but the damage was done. And Yannick's knife-bearing arm went with him, taken from the shoulder down. Thick red chemical blood spilled from his split armor, splashing against the wall nearby, the ichor hardening quickly, even before it could drip to the floor. Already, Yannick's enhanced biology was sealing the wound and preventing any further blood loss. But it was a cold salve to the Marine, who fell to one knee, blinded by the pain for several moments. Luckily, these were instances given to him by his opponent, as the Jedi himself struggled to pull breath back into his body and succeeding after a short time.
Man, this Jedi really is different compared to other Jedi that we've seen. You know, like especially on the war on Axum. You know, he's using the Force in a different type of way compared to the Jedi that are fighting on Axum. How he's able to use it like a kind of like a shield that protects him from impacts like this from Yannick. I don't think I've actually heard any other Jedi doing something similar on Axum or, you know, on the battle barges in space that belong to the Imperium of Man. In terms of the Jedi Strike Force there with Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, I don't think I've heard them use the Force this way. I mean, yes, they do use the Force in different types of ways in defending themselves, but not like this. Yeah, it's quite impressive.
Fool! Your struggle changes nothing. The Jedi spat and panted, his tone cold as ice. Yannick looked up at him, blood trickling down from his wolfish grin as he lifted his still intact free hand, revealing something which widened the Jedi's hidden eyes. Hasn't it, though? The Marine asked in a mixture of obvious pain and even more obvious assurity. The Tusken Force wielder gnashed his teeth as he glared at the Marine's remaining hand. Gripped there was the bandolier which held the component parts the Jedi had been wearing. Yannick having used his knife and opposite hand to pull free the mission's objective from the enemy's body.
Well done.
And now that he was no longer using that to shield himself, there was nothing preventing Yannick from resorting to his bolter. The Marine dropped the bandolier, reaching down for his mag-locked weapon, still hanging at his waist. In the exact same instant, the Jedi lunged, sabers angling to decapitate the young Space Marine in a single scything sweep. Yannick was fast, but the Force-wielding warrior surged forward with unnatural speed. Between them, the contest was decided. But then a third player entered their lethal game. A beast, previously hiding between some crates, threw itself from its shadowed haven, snarling and baring its teeth, colliding with the side of the Jedi, born fangs sinking into robes, tearing and ripping. Yannick watched in surprise. The beast was a six-limbed wolf, 2 meters long from head to tail. It growled and clawed, its jaws locked tight.
Does this wolf belong to the Space Wolves? Or is it a creature that, you know, comes from Tatooine? Huh.
Ah! Disgusting animal! He raged, thrashing for a moment before kicking the beast off.
Okay, Jedi. I've never heard of a Jedi say something like that, you know. Oh, disgusting animal. Usually Jedi are the ones who like, calm down, animal. You know, they use the Force to calm the animal and the animal sleeps or it becomes docile towards the Jedi. But here, this Tusken Jedi is like, you disgusting animal. I guess you didn't learn how to calm an animal then, it seems. You're not an animal whisperer like other Jedi.
It whimpered as the booted foot connected hard, throwing it against the wall, but taking with it a portion of his encompassing Tusken attire. Seeming to notice right away, the Jedi reached up, dropping one of his lightsabers and covering his pale, all-too-human skin by pulling taut the tatters of his robe.
Why would you do that? For what? So you're human. So you're a human being, and then what? Why are you trying to hide it? There's no point in doing that. Keep carrying your 2 blades and prepare yourself for battle. You know, stop trying to cover yourself. I don't know why you're trying to cover yourself. You know, it's not like the Space Wolves actually care that you're a human. The fact that you're a witch, you're already dead in their eyes. You know, they want you dead. So there's no point in covering yourself.
His concern for his clothing would prove a disastrous waste of time, as by then, Yannick had drawn his rapid-firing bolt pistol once more. Hefting it with one hand, he squeezed the trigger, firing a stream of explosive, high-speed bolts towards the dangerous heretic. The Jedi snarled, the sound feral, not unlike that of the wolf, crouching down to avoid the stream. One arm still clinging to cover his exposed skin as he leapt like a frog, lurching to the left and then jumping up from there. Yannick chasing him with barking, detonating death all the while. Clinging to the ceiling for a brief instant, the Jedi cried out in apparent fury before throwing himself out the nearby window, shattering the thin, hard glass of the narrow gap and escaping out into the sands. Yannick gave chase, running to the same window and jamming his thick-barreled gun into the opening, shoving and crushing the glass aside as he kept firing. But alas, the Jedi had vanished into the desert, the still desert. Sweating thick streams of stinging anti-flammable liquid, he smiled and groaned, backing away from the window and nearly succumbing to the desire to sit, feeling a little lightheaded and more than a little agonized from the loss of his arm.
Witch's tits, that hurts.
He groaned. A whimper answered him, and he snapped his head around to see the wolf which had appeared, the creature padding up beside him, large eyes meeting his questioningly. The shaggy beast was coated in nightshaded fur, and its eyes colored like orange sunbursts. A handsome beast, to be sure. Looking around for a moment, Yannick paused and then holstered his weapon again, reaching out carefully with his hand.
Easy, boy, easy,
he said as he reached his arm down, metal fingers extending towards the animal's black-furred head. It lowered its ears nervously, but did not react aside from to close one of its eyes as Yannick's hand gently came down on its head and began to ruffle its fur. The space wolf smiling as the beast tolerated his touch and then pressed its head against his armored palm.
Aye, we'll be fast friends,
the Marine said, blinking spice out of his eyes and turning his head at the same moment to look towards the door he had come in through.
So this wolf does not belong to the space wolves. It's a terrestrial animal to Tatooine. Okay.
Seeing Boba standing there. Train stopped. Where's the Jedi? He asked, still holding his blaster in one hand as he scanned his head from side to side.
I can see that. The Jedi scurried off, coward that he is,
Yannick said, turning to fully face the bounty hunter and completely revealing the extent of his injuries, forcing a wince out of the young Fett.
What, this?
The Marine asked with a laugh, pointing to his own red stump, which still bled, but not by very much.
It's a small price for victory. Don't ye whinge on my behalf, whelp,
he said, his white grin stained partially red. The six-limbed candid at his side whimpered an instant later.
Now don't you start too. It barely even hurts.
The Marine lied, petting the beast's head again. What the hell even is that? A womp rat? Boba asked, coming closer and then stepping back again when the creature bore its teeth and growled.
Easy, whelp,
the Space Marine said, addressing the beast this time, and it seemed to comply, begrudgingly lowering its lips back over its fangs.
Pick up that bandolier, would you? And no, he ain't a rat. Blink that sand out of your eyes, Fett. 'Tis a wolf. Little strange, but ain't no mistaking it,
Yannick said, walking over to his severed arm and hefting it up onto his shoulder. Boba came closer, and then nodded, kneeling down to pick up the equipment they had come for, and to look at the beast as well, but not too close. Strange, he muttered, before getting back up and making his way towards one of the sealed side doors that led out into the sands.
And what's so strange about a wolf? The 6 legs?
Yannick asked as he followed, pupils flaring and shrinking as Fett pried open the train door and allowed the harsh dual suns of Tatooine to spill inside. No, said the young bounty hunter. It's just... that's not an Anuba, and... well... he started to say, looking out across the sands, the desert storm which had surrounded them now faded and gone. He then looked back at the odd, 6-limbed wolf which seemed to follow the Space Marine. To my knowledge, there are no wolves on Tatooine.
Strange. Okay, so where does this wolf come from? Maybe it must have been transported here by its previous owner, and the previous owner died in the deserts of Tatooine, and the wolf, got free and just roamed around the deserts. Davik, Thune, and Orion Phatris. Yes, hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly there. Crimson Razors and the Skywatch Chapter Masters. Okay.
Are you giving me orders, Orion Phatris?
Said the deep rumble of Davik Thune's voice. Not yet. Would you prefer that? Came the cool reply of Chapter Master Orion, spoken in his calmest, most dangerous voice, but not voiced through his own lips. Davik stood in a luminous fortress of his ship's personal astropathic choir, the man before him standing tall, with the bearing and poise of the Skywatch's Chapter Master, while in truth being no space marine at all.
I think this is the first time they actually speak to each other, right? Ever since they've came into the Star Wars galaxy. This is the first time. Wow. And Orion has been creating a lot of political structures and military hierarchy with the fleet, if I'm not mistaken. And, Davik Thune has just been going on his own little crusade across the galaxy, especially in the Confederacy space. He's been doing his own little crusade that side. So, yeah, I wonder what's going to happen with these two chapter masters. Because clearly they're not seeing eye to eye. There is no unified order on how they should proceed in this galaxy. The Crimson Races are doing their own thing, and then the Skywatch are doing their own thing. So yeah, interesting. Let's hear what they have to say to each other.
The astropath perfectly mimicked the Chapter Master's every sound and movement, and even then, Davik had to work to keep from marveling at the effect. Never before had astropaths been able to receive communication signals from each other so clearly. But here, in this new galaxy, it was so precise as to allow them instantaneous telepathic communication even across entire sectors of space.
I'm sure the astropaths are just enjoying themselves, living in this galaxy with peace of mind and, the energy to communicate in vast distances without having any delay. It must be a dream for them, a treat, yeah.
Other astropaths in the choir sang their silent, constant psychic song from behind the speaking man, bolstering his range and clarity with their own immensely powerful minds. Davik knew that somewhere many light years away, Orion was experiencing the same thing, his own astropath imitating Davik's every syllable and gesture. The implications made Thune's mind reel, but those considerations were shoved off for another time.
Would you be so bold?
Davik asked with a mirthless laugh. I would, but only as a member of the Imperial Council, and with their full backing behind me. Orion stated matter-of-factly.
Bah! I do not recognize your petty little council. I am Astartes. We are not beholden to such things. We are guaranteed support by the Codex Astartes, and anyone or anything that gets in the way of that is fair game.
Times have changed, Davik Thune. You did not consider the political ramifications of you guys being in this galaxy cut off from the Imperium of Man. The old rules do not apply. The Codex Astartes does not apply here. This is a new beginning. And for some reason you have not really taken interest in that new reality. And now Orion is slapping you in the face with that new reality.
Davik spat with a wave of his hand. The astropathic mimic of Orion, Phatris, sighed and shook his head, seeming weary and, for the first time, impatient. "Let me be frank with you, Thune," he said, his eyes meeting Davik's, the astropath even adopting the golden hue of the other master's irises.
By all means.
Davik said, crossing his massive arms over his chest. "Whether you choose to recognize our authority is irrelevant. The vast majority of our fleet lies with me, and all of our remaining support structure is in the hands of our council. We currently recognize you as a constituent fleet, and so, when you return, you will be refueled, rearmed, resupplied in every way we can. Your men will find succor, your ships berths," said the distant Master Phatris. "However, if we revoke that recognition, if we declare you rogue, then obviously all of this would change, and not for the better," he concluded. Davik stomped his foot, hoping he broke the imitating astropath's leg in the process, eyes flaring with rage.
You would keep me and mine from what belongs to us by right!
He snarled, arms uncrossing, hands balling into tight fists. "Would you threaten your cousins and charges to attain it?"
I think he would. He seems like the type. He seems like the type. Yeah, I think he would. So, yeah, stand your ground, Orion. Either he complies with your requests or your demands in terms of him, obeying the laws or the rules of this new Imperial Council, or his entire group of, his chapter, if I can say that, and his fleet will be kicked out. And let's see how long they will last.
Ryan asked, raising an eyebrow.
Do not test me, Orion. You know well that I would do more than speak over a matter such as this. When have you known idle threats to swarm past my teeth?
Davik roared, getting right into the face of the astropath, who maintained an air which was entirely nonplussed. The man who served as avatar to the chapter master of the Skywatch spread his arms in a lax but open challenge. If you truly feel such, then come and take what you think is yours. But while your men will be returning with a sore need for bolts, serfs, and parts, my men will be waiting, their kin in iron over their shoulders, ready to meet your foolishness with a harsh rebuke. He said.
You dare?
Davik began, but was cut off a moment later. I am not demanding your challenge, Thune. The last thing I want is for us to waste ourselves fighting each other. But we must have a unity of purpose, and if you stand in the way of that, in the way of order, then you are an element of chaos I can ill afford to tolerate.
Unfortunately, you come from a galaxy where chaos reigns supreme, and it's going to follow you here in this galaxy too. Yes, you'll have your peace for now, but then when Davik Thune feels like he can actually do something about this council and he can try and overthrow you, I can assure you he will try his best to do it. So, for now, I think he will capitulate and he will obey the authority of the council. But once he finds an opportunity to, break free from this control from the council and from you, Orion, he will take it. And there will be a civil war in our hands.
The ultramarine offshoot said, crossing his own arms now. You will return. You will bring with you the assets you have taken. You will be resupplied, given what you need, and then you will take your place on our council. and your chapter will be redeployed as befits the ruling of that council. I am open to negotiations, so long as all of the aforementioned items are included. He stated, brooking no argument, barely leaving room in his tone for the negotiation he purportedly was not against.
It can barely be called a negotiation if all your terms must be fulfilled.
Thune growled. Orion shrugged from light years away. Call it whatever you like, Thune. You can see the board and where the pieces lie. The next move is yours. Davik paused to think, transhuman mind calculating around the terms before he grunted and addressed Orion once more.
Do you intend any punitive actions against my chapter, or those who followed me, or myself?
He asked. So long as you agree to my stipulations, none whatsoever. It is in all of our best interests that we appear to be unified at all times. And that would hardly be the case if I punished you and your men upon your return. Take your equal place alongside us, and we will never speak of redressing these actions. You and your men can consider them buried, even condoned. But
This is cool. Kubik. Is this like the Astropath choir? You know, with the light there? Is that what it is there? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, this looks cool.
Orion was saying,
But only if we agree to your terms. Yes, fine. Never let it be said that you are not a shrewd bandyer of words, Phatris. A poor preoccupation for an Astartes, but one which has won you this battle. I and my forces will return. We will bring with us everything we can, and turn it over to the disposal of your council. I will join it, and I will deploy my forces in accordance with it. In return, I ask only that you constrain any attempts to punish us, either from yourself or anyone on this new Imperial Council of yours. We shall be treated as equals in all things. Will this satisfy you?
Davik conceded, scowling all the while. Orion's avatar nodded in approval. It does. We have an agreement. The distant master said.
Very well then. I'll take my leave of you, Skywatch. I have much to do before I return, and little enough to do it with.
Davik rumbled, snapping his fingers before Orion could respond, signaling the choir to cease. The man who had been Orion relaxed and slumped. Though Master Phatris had seemed at ease the entire time, matching his posture was exhausting, and the astropath took a moment to flex his arms and legs a bit before suddenly going rigid.
What is it?
The chapter master of the Crimson Razors asked, having been about to turn away.
An attempted contact, sir.
The astropath reported dutifully, his natural voice sounding old and withered.
Attempted?
Davik asked. The man nodded.
Yes, it's coming from a distant place and from just one mind. It must be fairly powerful, or desperate, perhaps both. We can reach it with the power of our choir. Shall I?
He asked. Thune paused for a moment, considering before giving a sharp nod.
Do it.
He said. The choir began to sing again, and the man closed his eyes, reaching out with his mind to find the other line of thoughts, straining and stretching until their metaphysical fingertips brushed against one another and formed a link between them. The connection was not so strong as before, but when the astropath spoke, he spoke with the voice of another man.
Chapter Master.
Chapter Master Davik Thune.
I have an urgent communication for Chapter Master Davik Thune.
Hey, it's Force Captain Vordran. Yes, long time no see. What's up?
He said, his voice altering with each word, overlapping for a brief moment before becoming recognizable.
Force Captain Vordran.
Davik said, crossing his arms.
It is good to hear your voice. How goes your mission?
he said.
Master Thune, the mission is all but lost,
The captain said, shaking the mild grin from the Space Marine's face.
What? How? What is happening?
The chapter master demanded.
There is not much time, Master Thune. Our fleet has been grounded. Our forces are completely destroyed. There is a new foe here. A man of iron, a bane to our attacking fleet. He is implacable. We cannot survive for much longer. This bane is hunting us. We are attempting to detonate our exterminatus payload on the surface of the planet. Hopefully, that will be enough.
The astropath had been saying before he suddenly trailed off.
Vordran! Captain, report!
Davik demanded.
It sounds like it sounds like he fell asleep or something. What happened?
He is gone, my lord. The mind has been lost.
He's dead? The captain is dead, or is it the librarian? Oh no.
Astropath said after a moment.
Then find him again!
The massive armored man roared in the Psyker's face. The astropath raised his hands, paling.
No, Master, you do not understand. We cannot get him back. He is dead, Lord. The mind reaching out to us died as it was transmitting.
Thune was silent then, but only for a time.
Contact my first captain. I am changing our rendezvous location. We have a mess to clean up before we rejoin our cousins. Crimson blood has been spilled, and we shall return that wound 1,000 times again. This bane will be broken, and we shall return in victory or not at all.
Intermission? Okay.
Hey there, everybody. This is AFanWithTooMuchTime here, coming at you with a little intermission. I figured I'd put a little break here around the middle of the episode to give you a chance to stand up, stretch your legs, maybe get some water or a snack, without having to worry about potentially missing anything too important. I also wanted to use the moment to remind you guys to go ahead and like the video if you're enjoying it so far. And if you're not, then please go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know what you think I could do better. I am always looking to become a better writer and a better portrayer of the lore, so if you think that there's something that I should know, please go ahead and voice it in the comments section. And, of course, if you happen to like what you're hearing and want to, give me a little compliment, then you can throw that in there too. Sometimes they're the only things that keep me going. The other things that keep me going are my other free works, which I encourage you to check out. Specifically, if you're a Warhammer 40K fan and you haven't checked out my Eldar story yet, please go ahead and give it a look. It's my own unique internal take on the mindset of an Eldar, as well as certain portions of their life, though I do intend to take it into a rather unique place and involve my own unique theory on the Eldar, but I dare say no more. Please pop in and check it out if it so pleases you. And if you happen to just be a fan of me, perhaps, then please go ahead and check out my 2 free webcomics, which will be linked in the description below. Both take place in large original settings that me and my brother have detailed. In fact, I helped him co-write Red Hunt, which is a fantastic western with a bit of a twist. And as for Song of Stone, I've been writing the world and creating the details of that place since I was a child. It's the most evolved and complete of any of the worlds I've ever drafted out. And it's admittedly one of my personal pet projects. Please, I encourage you to check it out if you have the time and the inclination to read a high fantasy comic. Also, if you happen to be one of our subscribers who has signed up to our mailing list on the website, then you should be expecting some nice free goodies pretty soon. Specifically the Mini Monstorum, a monster compendium composed of both my worlds and my brother's worlds, which we've put together. One day we intend to put out the actual whole Monstorum, the maximum Monstorum, but until such a time as we get that far, all we have is the Mini Monstorum, which we're happy to offer to you for free, just to say thank you for taking an interest in our worlds. Now, I hope that you've gotten yourself a nice snack, maybe a drink, a stretch, because part 2 of the Jaws of Fate begins now. Please enjoy.
Let's go, Force Captain Vordran.
Vordran stumbled back, barely keeping his feet under him as he wiped away the hot, chunky spatter off from his face. Blinking skull fragments and blood out of his eyes, the Force Captain felt his 2 hearts begin to race as he looked into the hole which had taken the place of the librarian's face. "Sniper, get down!" The other Marine yelled, tackling the captain to the ground just as another loud, cracking shot cut the air above their heads. "That's a bolter. I know the model. It sounds like a Godwin Stalker," said Terranak, the Marine who had taken Vordran to the floor.
Who's using the bolters? Is it is it the droids? How did they get bolter weapons? Wow, okay.
"Damn it! The abominable thing must have found the armory," Terranak added. "That's 2 brothers now that I've lost to that creature. God, Emperor, preserve my wrath! I will have vengeance for this!" Vordran roared, slamming his fist into the ground. He and Terranak shuffled forward to better cover, grinding on iron hands and knees across the asymmetrical, chaotic landscape which comprised their ruined ship. They had found the librarian after hours of searching, the Psyker being delirious and severely wounded, but alive. Yet finding him had not been without cost. And prior to discovering the powerful Psyker, Brother Gorgonon was taken by something large and pale. It had moved at a disturbing speed from the shadows, dragging the Marine into the bowels of the ship, bellowing and struggling.
Damn, Shalile. You're going to instill fear into the Space Marines. The very people who tell us that they fear nothing. And here you are, you're showing them fear. Oh.
2 others had done their best to give chase, but by the time they had caught up to him, it was too late to intervene. Whatever had taken Brother Gorgonon had ripped and twisted the Space Marine's head free of his body completely, leaving what was left in a pool of its own blood, the white demon vanishing back into the shadows. It was because they knew they were being hunted that Vordran made the decision to find a defensible location and make their attempt at contact with their chapter as soon as possible. Their attempt had been working, too, until the damned pale Bane had found a new tool to attack them with. Now, their objective was dead, and the Force Captain could only hope that the words he had managed to send to Davik Thune would be enough. It was, at least, better than nothing. Vordran almost jumped then as his vox chimed in his ear. "Captain, we found it!" came the voice of Sergeant Kandrin, spoken through their voxnet. "Transmitting coordinates to you now," he said a moment later. "Good job, Marine. Can you detonate it yourself, now?" the Force Commander asked. "Negative. It needs a biometric imprint belonging to someone of higher rank," the Sergeant reported. "All right. Call your lookout back and hold your position. We are en route. Be ready for hostile contact, Sergeant. We are being pursued. Force Captain out," Vordran replied, looking then to Terranak and nodding sharply. As soon as the coordinates were received, the 2 took off, massive bodies running as fast as they could manage, jumping, swinging, and scaling their way down the angled slope of their ship's crashed body. Vordran grit his teeth, feeling some of them begin to bleed, matching the aches and pains all over his bruised form. They moved quickly and fluidly, but the 2 Space Marines could not help but be slowed and nearly stalled by the pain of their myriad injuries. Still, they knew they were being hunted, knew that the Bane was sure to be following. though it apparently opted to keep its distance from the Marines as it did. The two Astartes performed the most elaborate maneuvers they could manage as they ran, hoping to coax the pursuing monster to reveal some aspect of itself. But by the time they swung down to the bottom of the ship, they were certain that it was still in pursuit of them, and yet had revealed nothing. Grunting as they came down upon the metal floor with twin hard crashes. But never losing their feet, the Marines arrived at one of the lower hangar entrances. The huge, oval opening was both upside down and slanted before the warriors, but its doors were still intact. They charged through without a second thought and grabbed either side of the interlocking mechanism. Unpowered, the door's components resisted movement and forced the Marines to groan and roar as they threw their weight and wounded bodies against the resistance. Finally, though slowly at first, yet with mounting speed, they hauled the doors shut, slamming the interlocking mechanism closed. "That should hold him," said Terradin. "But not for long. There are other ways into the hangar. Let's move."
This is reminding me of the Alien versus Predator movies, where the predators have to help the humans or the humans have to help the predators in activating some sort of bomb that will kill all the aliens, and the aliens are chasing after them, and it's a scary and tense moment, and it just seems as if they're going to make it. Well, in the movies they kind of do, the humans do, while one human female succeeds. She survives, and she is bestowed with a scar on her face to say that she's part of the group of predators or something like that. But in this scenario, I'm not sure if the Space Marines are actually going to succeed in detonating the cyclonic torpedo. Shalal is here. He is chasing after them. He's hunting them down. And who knows what else this man has been doing. Because there were a lot of droids, encircling the crash site from episode, I think it was episode 31, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Towards the end of episode 31, he was walking towards the ship with hundreds upon thousands of droids. So they were all encircling that ship. So who knows how many other droids are inside the ship already, infiltrating, doing whatever they have to do. And of course, Shalal as well in here terrorizing the Space Marines. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to succeed. I honestly just don't know. But good luck, guys. Good luck.
Force Captain stated, the other Marine nodding. Both took off at a run, stomping and crunching across the bent and broken ground, heading towards the coordinates. When they arrived, they beheld an unexpected but not unwelcome sight. The cyclonic torpedo was resting against the ground in the bay, a long silver trail behind it making it obvious it had been hurled into this location from somewhere else, likely once the ship had collapsed out of the air. The world-ending payload was absolutely massive, dwarfing the two Marines and the tossed and bent ships which remained in the hangar area. It had been clearly jury-rigged to explode, with a makeshift interface and detonator crudely installed into its side. 40 paces to the right of it, the hangar wall had collapsed, revealing the exterior landscape. And not far from that hole, a Thunderhawk sat, dented but prepared to fly from the looks of things. "The Sergeant has been busy," Vordran said. "I don't know where Kandrin thinks he can take us with a Thunderhawk that won't go up with the rest of the planet. Perhaps we could take it into space and drift until other forces come to recover us," Terradin asked. "Perhaps. It's a better chance that we'll get sitting here when this thing goes off."
But where is the Sergeant right now? He should be here, right? This does not look good. Where's the Sergeant, guys? You talk about what he's been doing here, but he's not here.
Speaking of which, where is the Sergeant? Where are his men? Vordran asked, looking about but seeing not hide nor hair of the other Space Marines. "Maybe in the ship, or in cover," Terradin suggested as the two came to stand between the Thunderhawk and the torpedo. Sergeant Kandrin, we've arrived at the coordinates. Report, Vordran said through his vox. Roger, roger, Force Captain, was the odd reply he got.
No, no, no. That's not him. That's not him. Captain Vordran, that's not him. Roger, Roger? No, 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 I refuse. It's not him. It's not him. I don't know which droid is mimicking his voice. It might be Shalal himself, I don't know. But you haven't fooled me. That Roger, Roger, I know that Roger, Roger. Okay, we all know that Roger, Roger. Except for you guys. Sorry, but I think he's dead. He's dead, and you're in a trap. This is some sort of trap. Yeah. Roger, Roger.
Back. Another shot was fired then, the bark of a familiar bolter, and Teradin fell, crying out in pain as his neck and shoulder was struck by an exploding bolt. More shots rang out, and Vordran ducked his head, hearts racing. What was happening? Had he been betrayed? He grabbed Teradin by the collar of his armor and dragged him behind an enormous broken gear, the scrap being near the size of a tank, hauling himself and his marine into the cover there. The fire kept coming, but with the thick steel encircling them, they had purchased for themselves time and shelter. Teradin coughed and choked, gagging on his own blood. The wound was bad, almost certainly lethal, though the Astartes still clutched his bolter, eyes fierce, not frightened. If he did die, he would die fighting. Hauling him up to the lip of the gear, both Marines braced their thick bolters and began to open fire. The flashes of their shots, and their enhanced eyes, revealing the nature of the enemies they now faced. Soulless beings who were closing in from where the Space Marines had come. Black-colored commando droids holding standard bolters and stalker bolters from the pillaged armory stalked out, fearless and firing even as the Marines returned their aggression, beginning to destroy them two by two. But Vordran was no fool. Teradin was drowning to death. He'd live for another hour at most while holding his breath, and he would weaken all throughout. More concerningly, the droids far outnumbered them, had more rounds to fire than the Emperor's Chosen did, and, from what Vordran had seen outside, they would only be the beginning. Currently, the two Marines could hold their own thanks to their cover, but once their guns were empty, that cover would mean less than piss. A decision had to be made soon, or they would be pinned down and killed in one way or another. Vordran did not even consider the use of the Thunderhawk. There was no retreat. Instead, he pulled down the other Marine and shoved his bolter into Teradin's free hand. "Cover me!" the Force Captain bellowed. He then pitched himself over the side of the great gear, throwing his body towards the cyclonic torpedo and sprinting as fast as he could. The mission! He could not allow the mission to fail! Seeing he would need it, the other Marine stood up higher, face red, veins bulging as he laid into the droids with even heavier streams of fire.
Since the sergeant that was here trying to fix the cyclonic torpedo or, get a ride for them to escape the planet was killed, I think it's safe to assume that the droids have sabotaged whatever control systems or even the bomb itself, preventing it from detonating. This is all just one big trap. So yeah, I'm afraid you're not going to complete the mission, Captain. Yeah. Roger, Roger.
One bolter gripped tightly in each hand. The droids focused fire on the attacking Astartes, who took many shots. Teradin's armor and tenacity keeping him upright, blasting away the last of the commando droids. Guns empty and clicking in the end. Seeing his enemies dead, and suffering many more bolter wounds, the Crimson Razor folded against the gear, lost consciousness, and slowly died. He had done his duty, and Vordran found himself unmolested as he reached the detonator and interface. The captain finished the work the other Marines had started, completing the interface with his technical knowledge even before his brother had fallen. Just as Pterodon's eyes closed for the last time, Vordran tore off his gauntlet, revealing his bruised and broken fingers to the air and pressing his discolored thumb against the finger reader. It scanned his print, giving an approving chime a moment later, the screens on the interface turning green. The red button on the handheld detonator, which had been wired into the world-ending weapon, suddenly bobbed, coming loose from its lock, ready to be pressed.
I mean, imagine the fingerprint scanner didn't work. You know, sometimes with my cell phone, I have to use my other fingers to unlock the cell phone. So what if something similar happened with his fingers? Like, it's like unable to recognize the thumb, unable to recognize this finger or that finger. Use your second hand. So yeah, luckily there was no problem here. It just did it automatically, and we're about to detonate the bomb. Good luck, Captain. Good luck.
For the Emperor and his angels of death! Vordran bellowed, pressing the detonator. And yet, seconds later, the Force Captain was still alive, and nothing had happened. He looked down at the interface, reading the words there. Armed and ready. He pressed it again, and again, but the huge shell of a weapon continued to slumber.
I called it. If they killed the sergeant, then definitely they've sabotaged the weapon itself as well.
Unmoving. But then he heard a sound, something which sent chills rippling over his skin. Mechanical footfalls, slow and heavy. Weaponless, Force Captain Vordran turned around towards the noise and saw the Bane emerging from the ship ramp leading into the prepared Thunderhawk.
How can you be weaponless? You should be having like a power blade or something, right? Yeah, you still have something. Take it out. Use that blade. You don't have a gun, it's fine. You charge against Belial with a blade and you might win. Who knows? We'll see.
It was the first time that the Space Marine had gotten a clear view of the hunter which pursued him, and the sight of his enemy flooded the surviving Crimson Razor with untempered rage. Before him stalked forth the alien, heretical shape of General Grievous, a figure he recognized from intelligence reports, a figure he had thought they had already neutralized. But this creature was not exactly like the being he had been briefed on. Taller, sleeker, and garbed in a long white cape in place of a black one, this creature bore an entirely different air about him. However, it was also similar, with its fleshy reptilian eyes remaining as the only sign of the creature's natural existence. And those eyes were filled with a keen, predatory intelligence.
Well done. You have truly surprised me, even impressed me. Given the option to flee or to destroy yourself and your enemy, you chose the latter, and you did so without hesitation, without even a moment's consideration. Running was never an option for any of you, was it?
There is no retreat.
The Xenos thing said, speaking in the basic language of this galaxy. Vordran did not speak, locking his gauntlet back into place and clenching his fist. A dull but rapidly growing sound began to fill the air, the sound of metal on metal, of hundreds or even thousands of footfalls.
Nothing to say?
The general asked. Where are my men, you abomination? What have you done here? Vordran demanded.
Look for yourself. Open that panel, the one that the detonator is wired into,
said the pale general. The Force Captain looked at the panel with narrowed eyes, and then back at Grievous, the sound around them growing louder.
The panel? Okay.
Go on. You want your question answered, don't you?
The alien pressed. Vordran snapped his hand out, grasping a handle on the panel, and then, without looking away from Grievous until the last moment, he yanked it off and away with one pull. The panel came out much easier than it should have, and the reason why was plain to see the moment he did. Out from the shell of the cyclonic torpedo tumbled the chopped, dismembered bodies of Sergeant Kandarin and his Marines. Both the wounded and those who had been able-bodied and able to fight. All dead now.
So, so Shalal stuffed their body parts into the cyclonic torpedo? Really? Man, this guy. Oh wow, you would have suited so well for the Warhammer 40K Galaxy, Shalal. I think you would have, really, you would have felt at home in that galaxy. I mean, this is crazy. Like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Oh gosh.
But they were not the only things that came out, and as soon as the broken bodies of the Astartes had finished falling out from where they had been stuffed, a swarm of chittering, clinking buzz droids poured out as well, most carrying components, parts, and other various innards of the now dead world-ending weapon. They scattered about in between his legs, Vordran almost jumping back, quickly beginning to stomp and crush the escaping machines, before turning his eyes on the general once again, who was watching everything he did with rapt attention.
So the buzz droids are taking the parts of the cyclonic torpedo? Uh-oh. Is he gonna try and make his own cyclonic torpedoes, maybe? Oh no. Oh no. You guys gave him... Oh no. No. Hopefully that's not what's going to happen. Hopefully that's not what's going to happen here. Yeah. Let me not give him ideas.
This is not possible! You could not have beaten us down here! Vordran roared in denial of what he saw remained of his brothers.
You may be correct. I took only one of you before coming directly here and creating this situation,
said the general. That is not possible! I received Vox communications! The Space Marine railed, but in response, another being, a commando droid, descended the ramp from the Thunderbird behind the alien. In its hands, it held something, an Astartes helmet.
Roger.
Gorgonon, Vordran whispered.
Yes, now you start to see,
the general said, the droid beside him repeating those exact words, but in Sergeant Kandarin's simulated voice. But why? Why bother with this elaborate deception? Why play these games? The Force Captain yelled, demanding answers from the looming foe, who...
Because Shalal is bored. He wants to know what makes you guys tick. He wants to know how to defeat you guys, how to dismantle you people. You know, he's just trying to figure you guys out. And he did quite a good job, I must admit. Shalal is scary. He's scary, really.
Shrugged his shoulders, reptilian eyes watching.
Because I have only second-hand knowledge of your kind. I needed to observe you. I needed to determine if your loud rhetoric matched your actions, and it does. I will not soon forget the lesson you just taught me, Force Captain. I will never underestimate how far your people will go for victory.
Unlike General Grievous, the second iteration, he didn't really understand his enemies. He didn't really believe they would go to such lengths just to kill him. You know, even I was surprised. The fact that they sacrificed a battlecruiser just to kill one person. So, yeah.
He explained, indicating towards the Thunderhawk his droids had dragged to the breach in the hull, and then to the emptied-out remains of the cyclonic torpedo.
mutually assured destruction. It has no leverage on your actions. Given the choice of potential victory through certain death, or potential survival through retreat, you choose the former, and you do it immediately.
Vordran felt his heart hammering, his rage filling him from head to toe. They had been toyed with, observed, experimented on like rats in a maze. This thing, this bane, was unreasonably dangerous. It had to be destroyed. The alien tilted its head then, as it continued to dissect Vordran visually.
And even now,
The mechanical alien began to say,
you fully intend to fight me, even as the last of your kind, even disarmed.
The general added, tilting his head.
No pity, no remorse, no fear. Sorry, guys. The Black Templars have got a chokehold on me ever since I, watched the Bruva Alpha Busa. What was it again? The podcast, yes, with the Emperor, yeah. They were talking about the Black Templars and, that motto that they use. No pity, no remorse, no fear. Yeah.
Vordran bent and reached down to one of the remains of the sparking buzz droids he had stomped flat, ripping off two saw-like limbs and turning to face the Xenos again, one in each hand. The angels of the Emperor are never unarmed!
You seriously don't have a combat blade? Really? Captain? Wow.
Vordran bellowed. Faith is my shield! My fury is my sword! The Force Captain roared, charging forward towards the enemy commander. The hunched, pale form of the formerly Confederate Supreme Commander straightened, rising to his full height and casting back the flaps of his cloak, revealing a towering mechanical body, bristling with lethality, both arms holding inactive lightsabers. He activated none of them as the Space Marine ran in, one weapon raised high, the other low. He swung the clumsy weapons in simultaneous arcs, which the Kalish warlord evaded by smoothly rolling backward, catching Vordran by the chest plate with one of the general's talon feet, using the backward motion of his roll to fling the Space Marine like a ragdoll. Vordran had failed to avoid the grapple, too frenzied to see clearly as he charged in for the kill, and was intercepted by the general's superior range. The Force Captain was thrown behind the general, tumbling through the air before crashing and skidding across the hangar floor. He growled, spitting blood as he staggered to his feet, facing away from the machine abomination that was his opponent. But before he could turn to address him once more, he felt his red eyes widen as the sound came to an abrupt stop, and its source was made all too clear to the Space Marine. Standing in rows of ordered ranks, having stomped into the hangar through the various breaches in the hull, was a legion of tall, blue super battle droids, their arm-mounted blasters all aimed in his direction. The ocean of steel had finally arrived to drown him, it seemed, prompting him to grip his makeshift weapons more tightly. He spun when he heard something fall onto the ground behind him, expecting to see a grenade, but saw instead the curved hilt of a silver and black weapon, arcing in a design meant to fit into a palm. A lightsaber.
What? Shalaz, why would you give your opponent a lightsaber? Why? What is this?
What is this?
Exactly, what is this?
Vordran demanded, facing the pale general once more.
It is a weapon which once belonged to a woman I defeated. I was made to let her live, but I did not neglect to take a trophy,
said Grievous. Vordran used his boot in a precise, light kick to toss the hilt up and into his hand, gripping it as he discarded the previous weapon, and then thumbing the activation trigger. A brilliant scarlet blade bursting free of the hilt and humming in the air, weightless before the razor's eyes. Why give me this? The Marine asked.
Because, Space Marine, I am not entirely without mercy.
He said, raising a closed fist in an obvious signal to the droids around them. In response, the super battle droids reeled their fists back, turning them and locking their blaster gauntlets to face up, away from the Space Marine.
Your mercy might be your undoing, General Grievous. Your mercy might be your undoing here. Like, you have the high ground. You have it. Kill him. What are you doing? What is this? Aye.
They then took one uniform step back. Grievous, meanwhile, reached up to the clasps of his flowing white cloak, letting it fall in an elegant heap behind him.
In recognition of your dedication, I, General Grievous, shall grant you a warrior's death.
He said, spreading his double-jointed legs and activating his two lightsabers to punctuate his words. One.
I care nothing for warrior's death. I expected you to finish the job, but instead you want to play sword, play fight with him. Okay. Go ahead.
Green and one blue.
Prepare.
He warned as he angled the blades, one aimed for Vordran's eye, the other signaling an intention to strike through one of his hearts. The Force Captain did much the same, spreading his own legs into a wider stance and placing the blade of crimson light between himself and the General. I did not know that Xenos abominations were composed of any honor, much less mercy, the Space Marine said begrudgingly.
I'm also surprised, Captain. Really, I thought, you were going to fight against the droids, fight against Shalal, and just die, but no. This guy wants to drag it out. he wants to give you a lightsaber, then you guys can fight against each other and we'll see who's the strongest. You're not being clinical enough, Shalal. For me, you're not being clinical enough. You have everything here. But instead you want to do this. Okay.
Honor, blood, war.
The grieving demigod said through his skull of a face.
These are the things creatures like us are composed of. We are forged in it, ascended by it, and ultimately ended within it. In you, I do not see the pseudo-morality of the disgusting Jedi Order. When I take my trophy from you, I will remember the caliber of warrior it was taken from. A true warrior. Are you ready?
Asked Quaiman Jai Shalal. The Force Captain of the Crimson Razors gave a short nod. For the glory of the Emperor, he said.
For the memory of the fallen,
replied the General. And with that, words were dispensed with, and the battle, such as it was, began.
1,000 feet are marching, pounding the ground behind, and I can see them coming to end my life. Everyone around is watching, waiting to see my fall. I try to catch my breath, but every ounce of strength is gone. I see the finish line, but I don't think I can make it, 'cause every step that I'm taking feels farther away. Now I'm out of time. This moment may be the end. I guess the peace is something that I'll never find. Who is your God? Where has he gone? When every shred of hope is lost, can't stop the visions that I see. This is the end of all. This is the end of all. This is the end of all things. the throne. His kingdom left him alone. Where is there left to run? This is the end of the road. Staring wonder at the world where I'm creator. The author of the story chose to write the final chapter. I don't ask for much. You said it would get better. I gave up my fucking life only to go out with a whimper. Who is your God? Where has he gone? When every shred of hope is lost, can't stop the visions that I see. This is the end of all. Who is your God? Where has he gone? When every shred of hope is lost, can't stop the visions that I see. This is the end of all. The end of all. This is the end of all.
Yes, guys, that is it with Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K, episode 33, The Jaws of Fate, season 3, Lords of the End, made on the AFanWithTooMuchTime YouTube channel. We've just had the conclusion of the battle between Yannick and the Tusken Jedi Ashard. Yannick was saved by a dog, a 6-legged dog, if I'm not mistaken. It's not a terrestrial wolf. It's not a dog. It's a wolf. Sorry, it's not a terrestrial wolf. Belonging to Tatooine. Boba Fett did say that this wolf does not come from this planet. So I'm thinking maybe it's from another planet, and the owner died on Tatooine, and it escaped, and it's been roaming around the deserts of Tatooine all this time. Or it came from the Space Wolves, and Yannick did not know about it. I don't know. But yeah, it's very unique. It's got 6 legs, so yeah, it's very different. And it helped Yannick in that fight against the Tusken Jedi. The Tusken Jedi lives to fight another day. Boba Fett has stopped the train, and I guess that storyline is complete until we come back to Boba Fett and Yannick again another time. I'm not sure when. And then we also had a discussion between Davik Thune of the Crimson Razors, the chapter master, as well as Orion Phatris of Skywatch, the chapter master of the Skywatch chapter. And yeah, Orion was just putting his foot down, putting the rules down, telling Davik Thune that he is not a one-man show. He cannot go out there rampaging the galaxy without, the backing of the rest of the... what was the fleet's name again? I forgot the name of the fleet that they all belong to. Oh no, I forgot the name. Battlefield Zectec, yes. Yes, Battlefield Zectec, and yeah, Orion has just told Davik that, he has to return so that he can present himself to the Imperial Council, and he and his forces will also be replenished with whatever resources that they need. And, Davik Thune has to secede to the authority of the council. If he does not, then he will be excommunicated, if I can say that, from the rest of the fleet, and his chapter and whoever else is with him, his small fleet or his Crimson Razor fleet will not be supported by the mother body, if I can say that. And, that was a clear threat that Davik Thune understood. Yes, he did not 100% agree with this new reality that, in this galaxy, the Codex Astartes does not apply. The old rules, the old ways do not apply here. And there's a new sheriff in town and he has to obey those laws. And for him and his people to survive, they need to, present themselves to the council and work with them. So I don't know how long will this unity last, with all these chapter masters and the fleets. I don't know how long will it last, because the Imperium of Man in the Warhammer 40K galaxy, they tend to also go through their own civil wars. The different factions of the Imperium of Man fight amongst each other. So we could have something similar here in terms of this Imperial Council, where council members have their own interests and they'll start fighting amongst each other. But for now, Orion has won the day. He has unified all of his Imperium of Man forces under the rule of the Imperial Council. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens next in that political situation. And then we had Captain Vordran. Him and the last remaining survivors from the crash have been trying to communicate with Davik Thune and informing him about what's going on, about Shalal and his tactics and his abilities, and the fact that he's hunting down the Astartes, when usually it's the Astartes are hunting down the Xeno threat. But now it's the other way around, where they are being hunted down by Shalal. And, the captain just tried to inform the chapter master that, there's a very powerful opponent on this planet, and we're going to need some help. We're going to need some assistance in this situation. And Davik Thune has stated that, before we return to our cousins, we have to deal with this matter. So Davik Thune is coming there personally, probably with his own army, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens between him and Shalal. That's if Shalal survives, because Shalal is now having a one-on-one fight with Captain Vordran. But back to Captain Vordran, he tried to activate the cyclonic torpedo. It didn't work. Shalal stuffed the bomb with the body parts of his comrades. Like why would you do that? He stuffed their bodies inside the bomb, and the bomb did not detonate because there was buzz droids in there also operating and taking out different pieces of the weapon of mass destruction. And essentially the plan to destroy the planet has failed, and now Captain Vordran is all that is left, and he's fighting against Shalal, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see who is going to be the victor from that battle. But like I've stated before, I find it very odd that Shalal would give a lightsaber to his enemy and then want to have a one-on-one battle with him. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have all of these droids carrying weapons, bolter guns, and all other manners of weaponry systems, and you have your lightsabers. Finish the job. Stop trying to entertain yourself. Stop trying to be this honor code or duty or chivalry or whatever you want to call it. Trying to honor your opponents this way. Stop it. Be clinical. Don't become like General Grievous number 2, where he also did not really take his enemies seriously enough. You know, he did not take them seriously enough, and it costed him his life. And now you're kind of doing the same thing right here. Yes, I know that you've been analyzing your enemies and you've now understood, you know, the way they think and how they operate. But what you're doing here is also a mistake. Don't take these people lightly. Just because you killed some of them does not mean the captain is going to end up the same way. The Force captain might actually kill you right here, right now. So yeah, I really don't understand why would he do something like this. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens in later episodes with that fight. And yeah, I guess that's it. That's it for tonight with Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K, episode 33. Remember guys, if you want to check out the original video as well as AFanWithTooMuchTime's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. And remember, like AFanWithTooMuchTime was stating in his intermission, support his YouTube channel, support whatever else he's creating with his brother as well, in terms of the comics, also the websites that he's offered. You know, just keep on supporting, keep on contributing to the comment section, keep on liking his videos if you like them, and you know, give him that support, give him that moral support. If you have issues, yeah, you can tell him, but let's be civil about it, okay? Let's not let's not be people who just, you know, want to attack people for the sake of attacking people. No, you know, if you have criticism, let it be you know, in a very civil manner. Yeah, don't be that guy or don't be that girl, you know, who just talks nonsense. Yeah. But yes, keep on supporting him, keep on supporting his projects, and guys, that is it. Okay guys, if you like my reaction, please give it a like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and click on the notification bell if you want to check out my latest videos uploads. And yeah, that is it. Good night.